Sometimes life throws you into a battle you never asked for, and sometimes that battle starts with nothing more than a fence. That's exactly how my story began. On a dusty stretch of ranch land I'd worked for nearly 15 years. My ranch wasn't just a business. It was home. It was blood, sweat, and early mornings spent fixing fences, hauling feed, and raising cattle. It was a place my father had helped me build, a place my kids grew up chasing fireflies. So when a group of folks from the newly built subdivision down the road decided they knew better than me, decided they could muscle me around with their shiny little HOA rules, I didn't think much of it at first. I figured it was just talk. But one morning, I woke up to find a brand new fence stretched across the only road leading to my ranch. My land. They had literally blocked me out of my own property. I stood there staring at it, dust swirling at my boots, hands trembling between fury and disbelief. They thought they could treat me like some backwoods nobody, like I didn't know my rights. They were wrong. Because if there's one thing I've learned from a lifetime of working the land, it's that you don't pick a fight with someone who knows how to stand his ground. And when I finally struck back, I did it in a way that none of them saw coming. Let's just say, their little fence turned into the most expensive mistake of their lives. Before we go on, hit subscribe so stories like this reach you first. I bought that ranch with every dime I had after leaving the service. It wasn't much at first, just 60 acres of dry land with a beat-up barn and a creek that barely trickled in the summer. But it was mine. Over the years, I turned that patch of dirt into a working cattle ranch. Sweat equity, that's what they call it. My hands were proof, calluses thick as leather, back sore every morning. But I loved it. The road leading in and out of my place had always been mine, too. It wasn't paved, but it cut straight through my property, connected to the highway, and gave me access to the feed stores, auction barns, and everything else I needed to keep the ranch alive. I paid the taxes on it, maintained it myself. That road was as much a part of the ranch as the fences or the cattle. Then the subdivision came. Developers rolled in with their bulldozers and promises of affordable luxury homes. They cleared mesquite trees, paved streets, and slapped up cookie-cutter houses that looked like they'd melt in the first real storm. And along with those houses came an HOA, an association full of folks who didn't know the first thing about ranching or country life, but thought they could control everything within shouting distance. At first, it was little things. Complaints about my cattle being too loud at night. Letters about dust from my trucks drifting into their neighborhood. Even a nasty note claiming my rooster was ruining their sleep schedule. I laughed it off. My ranch had been there long before their neighborhood. But then came the fence. One morning, I drove up from the highway, hauling a trailer of feed, and found steel posts and wire stretched clean across my entry road. A shiny HOA sign was bolted right onto the gate. Private access, community property. I nearly dropped the coffee out of my hand. They weren't just complaining anymore. They were declaring war. Neighbors slowed their cars as I stood there in the dust, like they were waiting to see what the old cowboy would do. Well, I'll tell you this much. I wasn't about to back down. That ranch was my life, and I had every legal right to that road. They thought they could box me out with some cheap fence and a laminated rule book. They were about to find out just how wrong they were. The morning after I found that fence across my road, I didn't sleep a wink. My cattle still needed tending, my deliveries still had to be made, but now every single trip in or out meant fighting a gate some HOA clown thought belonged to them. I started asking around, called the county office, dug through old plat maps, even tracked down the original deed. And wouldn't you know it, that road wasn't just on my property. It was my property, clear as day, surveyed and recorded before half those HOA board members were even born. When I confronted them, they laughed in my face. One guy in a pressed polo shirt told me, "You'll have to take it up with the committee. We've decided this access is for residents only." Residents? I'd lived there longer than the asphalt under their tires. For weeks, it became a circus. Every time I hauled hay or feed, I had to argue with some retiree turned gate guard. They scribbled fake violation notices, threatened me with fines, even called the sheriff once claiming I was trespassing. The deputy nearly choked on his coffee when I showed him my deed. That's when I stopped being mad and started getting creative. If they wanted to block my gate and make it community property, fine. I treat it like community property, but communities don't get free rides. Communities pay tolls. So I drew up a plan. Hired a local welder to install a heavy-duty steel gate, one that locked electronically and only opened with a card or cash payment. Posted big, bold signs. Private ranch access, toll road, $5 per vehicle. The first day I flipped the switch, you should have seen their faces. HOA members rolled up, smug as ever, only to be greeted by a shiny keypad demanding payment. Some tried to argue, some tried to tailgate through, but I had cameras rolling and the sheriff on speed dial. Word spread fast. Neighbors cursed me, called me greedy, but the law was on my side. My property, my road, my rules, and the more they fumed, the more determined I became. They thought their little fence would break me. All it did was give me an idea that was about to cost them a whole lot more than a few posts and wires. It didn't take long for the HOA board to come storming down my road, clipboards in hand, acting like they were the law of the land. 3 of them showed up one hot Saturday afternoon, sweating through their pastel shirts, and demanded I remove the illegal toll booth. I didn't even bother hiding my grin. Illegal? Gentlemen, this is private property. That's my gate, my land, and the county clerk signed off on every inch of it. You can call it a toll road, I can call it a maintenance fee, but either way, you're paying to drive across my dirt. That's when their lawyer showed up. Oh yes, they pooled their HOA funds to hire some slick city attorney who thought he could bury me in paperwork. He slammed me with cease and desist letters, claimed my toll was extortion, and even threatened to sue for restricting access. Big mistake. Because the thing about country folk is, we may not dress in suits or talk in fancy legal terms, but we know how to read contracts. And my deed was airtight. I had every survey, every plat map, every historical record on file. So when I walked into that courtroom, I wasn't some farmer out of his league. I was a landowner defending what was rightfully his. The judge didn't even let their lawyer finish. This road is clearly private property, he said, tapping the paperwork I'd brought in. The HOA has no claim over it. Case dismissed. The board looked like someone had stolen their golf carts, and that's when I twisted the knife. Because you see, all those weeks I'd been charging $5 a vehicle, I'd kept records. Every HOA resident who had passed through my gate had essentially signed a receipt acknowledging the toll. My lawyer leaned over and whispered, "You can actually keep this going permanently?" So I did. From that day forward, the road was officially a toll road. HOA residents had 2 choices: pay up or take the long, winding back road that added 20 minutes to every drive. And let me tell you, most of them paid. The fence they built to shut me out, it had turned into a cash register ringing in my favor. After the judge tossed their case out of court, the HOA's grip on me was gone for good. They had strutted into that courtroom like roosters, and they limped out like wet cats. But the real impact came in the weeks that followed. Suddenly, every HOA member had to make a choice, cough up $5 every time they wanted to cut across my land or drive the long way around. At first, some tried to boycott my road, but convenience is a powerful thing. When you've got kids to drop at school, groceries to haul, or a long commute, that extra 20 minutes eats away at you. Within a month, I was collecting more in tolls than I'd ever imagined. Enough to cover maintenance, repairs, and then some. Every vehicle that clinked coins into that box was a reminder. They started this fight, but I finished it. The funny thing? A few neighbors who had been the loudest complainers actually came up to me later with sheepish smiles. "Guess you taught us a lesson," one of them muttered, dropping a 20 into the box for the week. I just tipped my hat and didn't say a word. Respect doesn't come cheap. Word spread far beyond our little county. Other ranchers, farmers, even small-town folks messaged me saying they wished they'd thought of it. Some called me petty, but most called me smart. I just called it fair. The HOA board eventually disbanded, eaten alive by their own legal fees and neighborly resentment. Turns out, nothing tears apart a community faster than paying tolls to clean up the mess their leaders created. As for me, I didn't buy that ranch to get rich off a toll road. I bought it for peace, hard work, and family. But when somebody tries to fence me out of my own land, I'll stand my ground every time. And if I can turn their mistake into something that works for me, well, that's just good ranch sense. So here's the lesson. Never underestimate the man who built his life on grit. You can put up fences, you can wave papers, you can hire lawyers, But when you pick a fight with someone who knows exactly what's his, you're not just building a fence. You're building your own downfall. And for the HOA, that fence wasn't the barrier they thought it was. It was the beginning of a road they'd end up paying to drive for years.